Hey people, I'm back with a brand new look. As I get older and uglier, this Windows gets newer and uglier. But I'm stuck with this Windows 10. I'm gonna try to figure out how to use it. So I've been learning more about how to how to repair computers the past month than ancient language. But I'm gonna go back to what I was working on about a month ago before I crashed my computer. And I'm gonna leave you some links to these Corey's fragments. This comes two or three different ways. It was added to later. I think the first time I saw it was in the archives in Washington, and somebody had added to it later, and they changed some of the originals. So you'll see this written a couple different ways. And over here at Gutenberg, this history of Egypt. This is 9 volumes, and this is a good book. It's full of illustrations, and I'm not sure about the date. It's at least 100 years ago because this guy that had interpreted McClure, he died in in 1916. So the book's at least 100 years old. And so where it starts here in chapter 1, it talks about in ancient Chaldea, the creation, the deluge, the history of the gods, the country, its cities, its inhabitants, its early dynasties. And it says, in the time when nothing which was called heaven existed above, and when nothing below had yet received the name of the earth, Apsu, the ocean, who first was their father, and Chaos, Tiamat, who gave birth to them all, mingled their waters in one. The reeds which were not united, rushes. What it's the picture here. This is the old fish god, and it's like the oldest. Some call it the Dogon god, and he's got a fish head. It's the same fish head that the Pope's wearing today, and we can see it here in this Corey's fragments. It talks about it, and this is many ancient fragments that were just put together in a book, and as they deciphered more of it and found more, they rewrote some of the original, and so it's many different writers, and you'll see that different writers have different names for the different for different people and gods. But down here at page 57, it'll be Berosus from Alexander Polyhistor of the cosmogony and cause of the deluge. And so Beros, in his first book concerning the history of Babylonia, informs us that he lived in the time of Alexander, the son of Philip, and he mentions that there were written accounts preserved at Babylon with the greatest care, comprehending a term of 15 myriads of years. And so this book will explain what a lot of these words are. You have to read it from the beginning, and some of it leaves open. You have to do the math to figure out what it means. But these writings contain the history of the heavens and the sea, of the birth of mankind, also of those who had sovereign rule, and of the actions achieved by them. And So you can see where it changed pages here. It's page 57. And and this talks about that fish god. In the first year there made its appearance from a part of the Eurythian Sea, which bordered upon Babylonia, an animal endowed with reason, who was called Khans. And so Khans, that's the name for priest in the Hebrew. In the Hebrew Bible, when it says the priest, it would be the Khans. According to the account of Apollodorus, the whole body of the animal was like that of a fish, and had under a fish's head another head, and also feet below similar to those of a man, subjoined to the fish's tail. His voice too and language was articulate and human. So saying he was an animal and his language was articulate and human, and a representation of him is preserved even to this day. That representation is the Pope, the fish head. This being in the daytime, used to converse with men. And so he was an animal, and he conversed with men, but took no food at that season. And he gave them an insight into letters, sciences, and every kind of art. He taught them to construct houses and build temples, to compile laws, and explain to them the principles of geometrical knowledge. He made them distinguish the seeds of the earth and showed them how to collect fruits. In short, he instructed them in everything which could tend so often manners and humanize mankind. From that time, so universal were his instructions, nothing material has been added by way of improvement. There's nothing else. He had it all. He knew it all. When the sun set, it was the custom of this being to plunge again into the sea and abide all night in the deep, for he was amphibious. So when you're on the boat, you're looking at water all around you. The god that comes out of the water during the day is the sun. So that would be a sun god. And he would go back to sleep in the water in the west every night. But all these ancient writers from around 2,000 years ago, if you read this, they all had different numbers, different times. It's like they were all writing in secret different recipes. There'd be different names and different times. And if you read on through this, you'll see that even 2,000 years ago, that they still weren't too sure of how to read the Hebrew then. But in Chaldea, as in Egypt, nothing was supposed to have a real existence until it had received its name. The sentence quoted in the text means practically that at that time there was neither heaven nor earth. Everything on earth had a name before it was created. And that's like this John 1. In the beginning was the Word, in Archon O Logos. And the Word was with God. To see the Logos on Prostone Theon. And to those on see Logos. And God was the Word. And that's in the beginning. In receipt bear from Yel. That's not Ahem. Ahem, that seems like a misreading in the Egyptian story where the god first cleared his throat and spit and ejaculated and created the heavens and earth. And so Utus, that's the Greek word for widget or the eye of Horus. Utus, this one, Utus, widget, on in arc prostone theon. Widget was in the beginning with God, and all through him existed, and apart from him existed not even one thing. So they all pretty much telling the same story. Is the Word came first before anything existed. And this is saying that widget was in the beginning with God. And so the widget and the logos and the God are all the Word. So the widget is 5 different parts, and it's numbers, it's fractions, and it's functions. It's a tongue, it's an eye, it's an ear, of the feel. It's 5 senses. But if you Google this Corey's fragments, Corey's ancient fragments, and hit images, you'll see many of them. And I like to find the ancient book instead of their writings like this. And you can see here this is at the beginning, and the chaos and the turbid black is Erebus. So you see from chaos, Erebus, and ebon, like ebony, black is the night, not Negro, but ebon. And there were certain animals not having sensation from which intelligent animals were produced, and they were called Zophesh Shamim. And so if we look at this as 2 different words, and this is the same word, the Shamim, this in Genesis 1, it's given the heavens, the Shamim, and later on down it means the sky. They give it the meaning, but it's the planets in the sky. The MIM is waters or motion, and it could be this motion, and then the X, the plants. To upmake, the pi is the mouth, or Sophie is Sophie, TS, the Tazah, the X, the Sophie, the Shamim is Sophia is the wisdom god of the moon. And so from this sprung up all the seed of the creation and the generation of the universe, and there were certain animals not having sensation. And so like the god that came out of the waters was called an animal, and this is certain animals. So it seems like this word for animals got mixed up with the word for planets, or knowledges of the heaven, the Sophie of the Shamim, the wisdom of this motion, the observers of heaven. And they were formed similar to the shape of an egg, and that would be all of the revolutions of the planets. None of them are round. They all making big eggs. The wisdom of this motion, observer the egg. And Mot shone out with the sun and the moon and the less and the greater stars. So it's really telling me that the word they're translating as animals isn't animals, unless the animals are all the animals across the sky, the lions I imagine all the first signs were probably all animals. So these are a couple good books, and I'll leave you the link to this one down here underneath. And this at Gutenberg does a good job, and you can use anything on here. Pretty much anything you want to do with it. I think you could even sell it. But if this is 9 books here, and they're good, they're full of between the 9 books there's 1,200 over 1,200 pictures in there. And I'll leave this link here. But if you remove that back to files, and it'll bring you to this Gutenberg.org files page, and you go to bookshelves, and you can see all the books. They got a lot of good books. Everything is free here. And go down to Egypt, the Egypt bookshelf. You see a list of books on Egypt. Down here, this is where this is at. And you get the 9 volumes right here. Read it in HTML. And it's a lot of good information, and it's a lot of information that you're going to have to question and figure out what it really means, but it helps. And it's just like the same people that were translating these old writings had mistranslated the Bible too, because you'll see the same words mistranslate. All right. Maybe I'll do one soon on how I picked up this computer with Windows 10 for less than $90, and it's a pretty good computer. It's a HP Elite 8470p, and I like it because it's the same one I had before. And I've been learning a lot about computer repair, trying to fix the other one. I got it fixed, but I had to put the Linux on it. I couldn't get my Windows 7 back up. I had crashed the boot while I was trying to fix all my drivers on it. All right, so I'm gonna cut this off here. Good day.